Well, here we are. So let's get started. Welcome to the Center for Art Arts Woodshed. Tonight we have a very special guest, Robert Rising. Robert is also known as BlackLumberjack and the purveyor of NYCITYSLAB. And we're just so thrilled to have him here today, not only because he's really fun to talk to and informative, but also because it's a kind of turning the tables or maybe revenge for our conversation a few weeks ago. So just a few things about the center. Center for Art and Wood. If you're not familiar with the center, we are a small art museum, contemporary art museum located in Old City in Philadelphia. We run a collection, a permanent collection, temporary changing exhibitions, an international collaborative residency program, a number of events and workshops, and much, much more. And you can visit us on site in Philadelphia, or you can also visit us in the Woodshed. And we're so thrilled to welcome you here today. I do want to mention that we are so thrilled since March to be able to present these kinds of programs to our public. And it's been such a thrill to be able to do that in the last few months and to pivot and come alive in this space. But these things do, it costs money to keep the center open, and if you enjoy what you're learning here and what you're hearing, please do feel free to donate something to the center. And along those lines, I should mention that the Center for Art and Wood just launched its fundraising campaign yesterday. So this is a really nice chance to be a part of the center's family. And you can get more information on the fundraiser in the link. I will just say that our goal is $250,000. We have a matching challenge grant from the Wingate Foundation. So every contribution that you make is actually doubled, which is how many times do you have the opportunity to double your money for the good of art, craft, and design and the material of wood. So do let me know if you want learn more about that. And then again, it's in the information is in the chat. So now on to the main event. Robert Rising operates NYCITYSLAB, a company dedicated to saving fallen trees and rescuing and recycling beautiful wood slabs from destruction and waste. NYCITYSLAB transforms every last piece into works of masterful craftsmanship and function for a range of clients, as well as accepting commissions for custom design projects. Robert is a woodworker, an environmentalist, a vegetarian, an entrepreneur, a designer, and a builder, and also a restorer of antiques. I would also add that he is an accomplished interlocutor, but we'll get to that in a minute. In 2004, Robert set out to build his own house out of locally sourced woods, but found that journey to be a difficult one, a challenging one, but also a rewarding one. So, as I understand it, he decided to found NYCITYSLAB to make it possible for other residents of New York and the surrounding area to access local woods for their building projects, and also, as many of you know, for your wood turning needs. So, without further ado, I'm going to adopt the format that Robert takes in his conversations with BlackLumberjack, which is a growing Instagram conversation series, and it's pretty fantastic. So I'm just going to launch into it because he has a very idiosyncratic and special approach to it to get people warmed up and loosened up, and also to get them to be really candid. So here we go. Also, before I start, if you have questions for Robert along these lines, please feel free to enter them in the chat, and we will feed your question into the interview forum. Okay, so getting started. First question, Robert.
Yes.
What's your favorite wood species?
I want to say walnut because it's the most valuable. But if you set that aside, I would like to say sassafras.
And why is that?
It smells wonderful. It's a beautiful wood. It's wonderful to work with, and it's not commonly used.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and it grows locally in the Mid-Atlantic region?
Yeah, yeah, it grows locally. Now, speaking to Greg Pennington, it grows in Tennessee very abundantly. So he uses it a lot. Here, it's not as abundant. So to get a decent sized tree that you can use for a project is a little more difficult.
Okay. Okay, what's your favorite spalt?
Maple.
Okay, popular choice.
Yep, beeches, all of the sugars are good. Beech is good. Oak could spalt too if you leave it in the wrong place long enough. I've had walnut spalt. Sycamore spalts very, very well.
Okay. What is your preferred pair of shoes?
Flip-flops. And I had flip-flops on last night and it was cold. But it's comfortable because I'm working in work boots all day and it's hard.
Okay, good to know. Is that something you'd recommend for people who work in woodworking?
Flip-flops or work boots?
Oh, no. Not in the shop. Well, we missed that part. Okay.
Oh no, my favorite shoe is a flip-flop. Big time. Yeah, but no,
But
I
not,
recommend I recommend people to wear work boots in the shop.
thank you. We had to add a caveat there. When did you discover your love of music?
Wow. Very, very young. When I was in college at Morehouse, there was a radio still called Wax and Facts in Little 5 Points. And
oh, Robert, your connection is a little shaky.
Is it? Oh boy. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine.
Yeah. Oh, really?
You can hear me?
Yep.
So it's on my end.
The last time I saw you was on your end.
I know. I know.
So I was in the store and this guy was talking about this half Jewish and black group. They did a song called Mama Was a DJ. And what it referenced is being young and your mother playing music, and that's how you got introduced to the type of music that you were familiar with and liked. And for me, I'm going to say probably 10, 11, maybe younger. My mom would play she had albums, album covers, and she would play a lot of records. So that was the beginning of my love of music. The first CD that I purchased was probably Prince, Sign of the Times.
Good choice.
So when I was in high school, I wanted to be in a band and I took guitar lessons. It was too difficult. I couldn't stay with it. The lessons. It wasn't difficult. I just couldn't keep still. So that encompasses my love of music.
Okay. So you channeled your love of music into listening.
Yes.
Knowledge.
Appreciating. Yep. Appreciating, studying, researching. And my mother was heavy on disco, R&B, and I was a teenager in the 80s, and that's when the Euro pop came. And I was a huge, huge, huge fan of AHA, Duran Duran, Wham, the Police, all of those people. So as a rebellion, I got into white music, pop music.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So
Did that hurt her feelings?
no, she didn't care.
Did it hurt her ears or sensitivity?
Well, I think I didn't play it a lot at home. I was out with my buddies listening to it. A lot on the radio, a lot of CDs, but I didn't play a lot of it at home.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Next question. Good insights. What did you want to be when you grew up? Or what do you want to be when you grow up? You can take
When I was younger, I wanted to be a politician. I worked in the White House under 41. I worked in Capitol Hill for Bob Livingston. I wanted to go to Morehouse and then go to Columbia and study law and then go and work in politics. Not as a politician, but as an advisor. So that's what I wanted to do when I was younger.
Mm-hmm. So we'll have to come back to that later when we get into the timeline of your life.
Yes.
Put a pin in that one. Favorite, this is Katie question. Favorite amusement park and or roller coaster?
Oh man. My son and I, when he's 22 now. When he was 11 or 12, maybe not even, we spent the summer doing roller coaster rides. We did 87 roller coasters. We flew to Ohio and we did Cedar Point. And the favorite roller coaster there was the one that went 120 feet, 120 miles an hour. It shot up and went straight down. I don't remember the name. From there, we came home, we jumped in my 66 Volkswagen and we drove through Jersey and PA camping. And Maverick at Cedar Point was probably my favorite roller coaster. Now, in Jersey, there's a wooden roller coaster that goes about 80 miles an hour. And it's a really, really nice ride. That's at Six Flags. And I think that has a Latin name. I don't remember it, but it was an excellent roller coaster. Are you with me?
Ava, can you hear us?
No, I'm sorry, my connection, it's my connection. I apologize. Sorry, I'm on a delay, but I'll keep going. Hopefully
Yes.
it'll work out. What do you feel is the most important thing that we as individuals can do to help our environment and reverse the damage caused by climate change?
Well, the first thing you got to do is believe in science.
It can't be that obvious.
That's number one. Second, I think that we all need to be a little more diligent about what we use and how we use it and how much we use it. In America, we're very opposed to being inconvenienced. And we want what we want when we want it at any cost. And that causes a lot of waste, a lot of neglect, and a lot of damage to our earth.
Yeah, no, that's I'll pick that up. That totally makes sense, and I think that's something that I think about on a regular basis. And I love the fact that you are taking all of this reclaimed wood out of structures and then making it available to everyone, which is it's keeping it out of the landfill.
Yep, yeah, and that's part of the mission, is to take something that otherwise would be discarded and make it useful and available to others. But I think, and people argue this, but I think I live in one of the coolest places in the world that has a lot of history. And to be able to save the wood from these buildings that have so much history, that are so old, is pretty remarkable. So that kind of makes it a little more special than just saving wood or saving a tree.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, each piece of wood that you save out of those buildings has its own story and its own like essence or whatever you want to call it that then other people can come in contact and maybe be inspired by.
Exactly. This weekend, we finished a table for a client who lived in Brooklyn, and it was on Schermerhorn. We purchased the wood from the demolition people at Schermerhorn, and we documented everything. We know the provenance. And a guy called and said, "Listen, my family almost bought that building. I want to make a table out of that wood." So that's how close he was to that building, that he almost owned it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's the cool thing about being in New York.
Yeah, yeah, so much history and just
Lots and lots of history.
and just super coolness.
Yes. Yes. It's definitely a cool place.
Yeah,
A good time.
I think Nava, you're doing okay now, right?
Yes, I
Cool.
have found a different source. Thanks.
All good.
Thanks.
Welcome back.
Ah, yes, thank you. But that's interesting about New York because it's not known as a city for a lot of wooden architecture. So I imagine it's more for interiors.
Well, yeah, it's not a place that's known for wood. Some places has great architecture, but it's not a place that's known for wood because of all the concrete and all the buildings. But
Limestone
there's a
around.
ton of yes, there's a lot of trees that are planted all over the city, all over the five boroughs, um, and those come down continuously for whatever reasons. And through the demolition and the building and the growth in the city, there's a lot of timber that becomes available.
Yeah.
So even with the stuff that I salvage, most of it goes down south
Okay.
or wherever to be used for whatever.
Okay. So you're, well, we'll get to that later. I do want to save that. Okay. If you could have any skill, what would that skill be and how would you use it for the greater good? This is also Katie.
um, if I could have any skill, it would be to make people forgive.
Mm.
Did you say skill or superpower?
Oh,
Um,
Well, I think both. I mean, skill can be a superpower, so I think it's either one.
yeah, I think what help people forgive. I think the world could be a better place if we stop worrying about how we were wrong or how we were different, and worry about how we can become better together. And I guess too specific to a skill, will be a better teacher to teach others to teach.
Mhm. So first of all, what do you think makes it hard for people to forgive?
I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, we probably need to sit on someone's couch for that one. That's probably a little deeper than I'm um, capable of answering.
Fair enough.
Um, I think um, I don't know why people don't forgive. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that because yeah.
Okay. Do you have any Middle Eastern friends?
Okay, let me tell you. Yes, to answer your question, I have many Middle Eastern friends, and I love Middle Eastern food. So growing up, I grew up in predominantly black neighborhoods. My high schools were black. College was a little different. I went to a black college in Tuskegee, Alabama for a year, and then Atlanta and Morehouse. And Atlanta is really multicultural and rich in culture and a lot of cultures. And me being a vegetarian since '91, um, you learn about different cultures and their food.
Yeah, that's true. And so that takes me to the next question, which you partially answered, which is when did you become a vegetarian and why?
I became a vegetarian in '91.
Yeah.
I was in the White House. I worked at the RNC at night. One job paid $6 an hour. The other one didn't pay. Um, you can guess which one didn't pay. And I spent a semester eating spaghetti and sauce out of a jar and beans and rice. So the semester's over. I go back to school. My mom comes up for homecoming, and she brings ham and chicken. So she cooks ham, fried chicken, and I eat it. And boy, did I get sick. I got
That's
really, really sick.
that's amazing. That is exactly what happened to me. Although except for the White House part. I stopped eating meat and because it was making me ill. And then I went home for holidays and it was like the festival of meats. And I got violently ill.
Yep. Yeah, I was very bad. And my favorite professor at Tuskegee, who was a Morehouse grad, was a vegetarian, Dr. Lawrence Hanks. And he um, educated me on being a vegetarian. And there was a pretty large group of vegans. And that's when I learned that that was a bit much for me. So I just stuck with being a vegetarian.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny because I also became a vegetarian in '91, but that was parallel. But I went the full way, and I've been vegan since '98.
Wow, good for you. I'm working on that.
It's gradual. You have to be ready, but
Yeah, it's a lot of
but
work.
you with open arms.
Thank you.
Um, so, were your reasons for were you health oriented or environmentally motivated or humanity?
Human, I don't think that we need to kill to eat. I'm sorry, I don't think that we need to kill to live. No reason for us to kill other beings to survive. So that was the main thing. The health was a second, but that I'm not going to rely on much because, I mean, I love cake and
Okay.
pizza.
You can make vegan pizza.
You can. You can. Again, that's a lot of work.
You'll come over to my house sometimes. We'll have vegan pizza and cake. Um, Well, I appreciate that, because I think that, I mean, the science says it all, right? That not to
You believe
proselytize.
in science?
Hard to believe, but I do think the science is out there, and again, not to proselytize, but you know, if we care about this planet, you know, we live accordingly, and we certainly know that industrialized ranching and livestock is a part of the problem. I'll stop right there, because I'm gonna go too far here, and this is not a conversation about that. But thank you for sharing your
Absolutely.
thoughts about that. Okay, two more, unless we have anyone from the cake and pizza for everyone. Two more, and unless people in the crowd want to throw some out. Number one, rain or snow?
Rain.
Okay.
100% rain. Rain because it doesn't stop the sun from shining. It doesn't stop you from having a beautiful day. It nourishes the land, the soil. It cleans the streets in New York City. Snow paralyzes everything. As beautiful as it is, when there's no light pollution, it's a lot to deal with.
That's true. And that's a very New York perspective too, because I think the thing about, if anyone's been in New York in the snow, you know, it's pretty for about 5 minutes, and then it's absolute destruction and chaos. Yeah,
Absolutely.
the pastoral moment is very short. Okay, be very, very honest. Who is your all-time favorite conversations with BlackLumberjack guest?
Okay, there are two.
No pressure.
There are two,
Okay,
and I'm gonna tell you why
please.
they were the best conversation with. Chris Swartz from Lost Art Press, David Johnson from Sockcroft Furniture. Now, the conversations were great, and they went up to 3 hours. Chris, because he took in the moment. It was like he said, "Okay, let's do this." And although I'm questioning him, he was entertaining me. And because of his his friends and the other chair makers, they chimed in as well. So it made it a very full conversation. Now, in addition to that, he also posted, which is very important to the conversation. So there was like 100 people on, which is rare. And I think he increased the page following by 200 or 300 people.
Wow. Wow.
David Johnson was a little more emotionally heavy. He talked about him not talking to his dad for 20 years. And him and his dad reuniting at his younger brother's funeral. And then that got me emotional about my dad. So it was a lot. And again, his contribution to the page was also just as impactful. One was on a Monday, the other one was on a Friday. So in that week, the page changed completely. Now, let me tell you, there are other great conversations that are had, but when you have to separate them, that is what makes it To me, the best. Now, there are some that I think that are more meaningful to the audience. Um, John Jordan, who's on, he spoke about his tough times, not being any money, and him traveling all over the country trying to make it work. And to hear that from someone of his stature is very touching to know. So I can go on. There's a lot of different things that are impactful, but I'm gonna stick with those. Can you see me?
Barely. I think in 10 minutes we won't.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you, Robert. Now we're going to go to the second part of the conversation, which is I'd love to hear about your path to what you're doing now. I know you've had a lot of stops along the way. So maybe you could tell us a little bit how you got from the beginning to NYCITYSLAB.
Okay. From New Orleans, Louisiana. Born and raised. School, I was in special ed from 3rd to the 9th grade. My 9th grade year in high school, I had a perm. I had straight hair. I was quite confused. That summer, I decided that I wanted to go to a different school. And it was an all-male Black parochial school, St. Augustine High School. And they had an amazing band, an amazing speech and debate team, an amazing football team, an amazing alumni. And it was a place where I felt would be helpful to me as a young Black man. I was heavy into sports, and I decided I don't want to be a typical Black man. I want to do something different. So I tried to get into this school, which was difficult because I was in special ed. Mm-hmm. And I asked my dad, I told him I wanted to go. And he was like, if you get in, I'll pay for it. But he didn't expect me to get in. I shouldn't have gotten it. Mm-hmm. So I called during the summer, and a lady answered the phone. She goes, oh, I'll call you when we give the test. Well, sabotaging it because I didn't think I would get in. I never called back until the day before school. And that lady happens to answer the phone and remember the conversation. And she says, bring $250 in your transcript. So I called my dad. I said I got in, and he was floored. He was surprised and very, very excited. And he paid for my sophomore year until he got laid off. And then I got a job, and I paid the rest, my last 2 years. From there, I got into politics. I was on a speech and debate team. I was trying very hard to be smart. More look smart than actually studying and do homework. And I applied to a bunch of colleges and got rejected. I get into Tuskegee. There, now at this time I start collecting fans as well. So I get into Tuskegee, and I do the White House internship, and I'm also antique shopping and still looking for antique fans.
You mean like standing fans or ceiling fans or
electrical desk fans?
Okay.
Late 1800s, early 1900s.
Very niche.
Yep. And I'm in Tuskegee still trying to get into Morehouse. I got rejected 3 times. Um, and I finally meet the admissions director. He knew me by then. So he invites me up for an interview. We talk, and he goes, "You're in." So I get into Morehouse. I moved to Atlanta, and it was like the world changed. Um, I got a job working at Four Seasons Hotel as a bartender. And by this time, I was collecting Volkswagens and Porsches. I had, that's when I first had my 911 Targa in 1974. And I had a 69 Corbin Ghia Volkswagen. And I'm still wanting to go to New York. So I'm in Atlanta doing the Olympics.
Wait, you do
I was in college. I was in college doing the 96 Olympics.
Oh, okay. When you say doing the Olympics?
No. During. I'm sorry. Excuse my southern accent. Excuse my southern accent. I was in Atlanta during the Olympics. That ended. I moved to New York after I got accepted. After I applied for the job, and I got accepted the job. I received the job. At that time, I was in Sarasota, Florida, at an antique fan convention. So I found out in Sarasota that I got the job in New York. Drove home, packed everything up, and I moved to New York. In New York, I am a bartender in the mornings. I was there for 20 years. And that's when the wood came in, because I bought a second home. I flew in my grandfather, my brother, and my uncle, and we framed it. And I wanted something very particular for floors, for countertops, for cabinets, and I couldn't find it. So I started to see all of these tree companies dumping wood. And now, this is 14 years ago. So I talked to a couple. Olmsted Tree Company was the tree company, and they agreed to deliver 40-yard containers of wood for $500. I was all over that. So they delivered it. I started paying someone to cut it. And I'm like, how much is a bill? So after paying that bill a couple of times and checking on the bill, I'm like, if I keep going at this rate, I can afford what a mill costs. So I bought a mill. Started cutting it myself and cutting it myself. And like everything I do, I always overdo it. And then I had an abundance of material that was available. So I put it on eBay. My son was working with me during the summers, and we made the delivery to, I saw my first oak slab to, it was a girl in Manhattan on 23rd Street. She's still a client. Her name was Mackie Haley. And I remember my son and I carrying this heavy oak slab up these 3 flights of stairs. And we bring it in and we walk down the stairs. And my son, who was like 7 or 8, he goes, "Dad, she didn't even tip me." And my son at this time was very entrepreneurial, and he was a hustler. So he was always trying to make money.
Where did you get that from?
Right? So I start doing it more and more. And then I'm doing it and working at the Four Seasons. I cut my days to 2 days a week at the Four Seasons, where I've been for 20 years. And those 2 days were not enough. So I had to quit. And that was probably as scary as the move I'm making now. And I did it. And I remember this guy at the bar. Good looking, blonde hair, blue eyed, his very fancy suit. And we were talking, and I was talking about what I did. And he says, it's not going to go the way you want it until you go in 100%. He goes, you can't tiptoe. You got to be all in. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that because I get 20 comp nights a year anywhere in the country. The job pays well, da 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 da. And a couple of months later, I had to quit. And he was right. The minute I took the leap in, it changed. So then it was about maintaining and building. And that's where I am now.
And you've just moved the whole operation.
Yes. Well, part of the operation. I moved the yard. The yard, which was a big part of what I do, was expensive. The overhead was too much. I was paying $5,000 a month in Hartsdale. I'm now paying $2,500 a month, 60 miles away, and it's twice the size, and it's set up for me to really move material. The other place wasn't. So here I could grow and sell a lot more.
So
and it's cheaper.
So so currently NYCITYSLAB comprises what exactly? All encompassing.
We have a furniture shop where we manufacture, we do wood and metal in Yonkers, New York, 5,000 square foot shop. And we have a yard that's here in Dover Plains that's massive. So we have over 1 million board foot of lumber, 35 different species of wood. We have 30-foot slabs. We have 2 mills. We have a kiln. We have redwood for water tanks. We have yellow pine, white pine for buildings. So it's pretty big.
So, and then who are your clients?
My clients range from everybody, from Coach, when they first moved into Hudson Yards as the anchor tenant, we put in 60 display tables, to a guy who wants to do a DIY in his garage.
And so you're not only dealing lumber and salvaging lumber, but also basically from source to finished.
Yep, yeah, we fabricate and build furniture as well. We do floors, wall paneling, a lot.
And I understand that you are very close with a lot of woodturners.
Yes.
From production to artistic wood turning and sculptural wood turning.
Yep, yeah, I got into wood turning 5 or 6 years. I mean, I wanted to do it 10 years ago. I got into it 5 or 6 years ago. I met Alan Adler in Pittsburgh at the symposium there, and I had on this BlackLumberjack. You know, being the smart guy that he is, he kind of picked up the whole thing and kind of took me under his wing. And admiring virtually a lot of woodturners, I've become friendly with them.
And are you also, are you an active woodturner at this point?
Yeah, yep, yeah. There's a couple of things on my lathe now that are for clients. One is I'm turning a table base out of a guy wanted a table base out of a white oak stump that's pretty big and heavy. And the other one is the same kind of thing, a stand for bell that I turned.
Okay. And what's your favorite lathe?
I'm an antique guy. I have a
Of course.
I have an old Oliver um, gap bed lathe, which is pretty fantastic.
And what's the largest diameter that you can turn?
Um, Inboard 50 inches, outboard um, uh, I think as big as it will, as big as it can, as much as the machine to handle.
Mm, yeah, great. And how many employees do you have?
5.
Okay, great. Um, so I do want to talk a little bit about conversations with Black Lumberjack, because one of the great things about it is it's not field specific. I mean, you talk to a lot of people from a lot of different fields, entrepreneurs, artists, makers, designers, bakers,
Yes.
um, and a range of metal workers. Um, so I kind of love the community that's being built around this one platform. And I'd love to know when it started and what drove you to launching it.
Um, it came from me naturally being curious and wanting to get to know people who do stuff and what it takes for them to accomplish that. The drive, the work ethic, the will, the creative. And I decided that it would be cool for me to have a conversation with these guys and tape it so other people can watch it as well. Because I figured I can't be the only one who wants to talk to these people. So being an entrepreneur and them being entrepreneurs, I figured it could be a learning lesson for all of us. Because the thing that we have in common is we're pushing to do something great, something wonderful, something different, something creative. And everybody can learn from that because all the stories are different, although the drive is the same.
Mm,
So all of those different things that all of these people that I interview, I have an interest in it. I love food. I mean, I love glass. I work with metal. I turn. Um, I love biscuits. so that there's um, reasons why I do it. And, and I've been following. I follow a lot of people, and I've been doing that since I first started because my mind is everywhere, good or bad.
yeah, I think that's clear is that you have a wide range of interests, but and curiosity, which I think is a really important quality for anyone in this world. But also, feel like your approach to your guests shows a devotion to people and their stories, and
Yeah,
that comes through in the conversations.
thank you. I think even in college, as a young adult, I've always studied people, always. Um, in my younger years, I used it to chase girls, but stepping away from that, I found that everyone has a story, and it's kind of cool to hear it.
Hmm.
So that's where it came from.
Yeah, amazing. And how long do you imagine that you're going to keep it up now that you're building a following?
Um, what I probably need to do is do less of it.
Mm.
I don't ever want to stop it because I'm forever curious. But doing it 6 times a week is a lot because sometimes they go over.
They
So it's
always,
not. Right, right. So it's not just 6 hours. That 6 hours can turn into 12.
Yes. I wondered
Um,
about that. I wondered because you really ramped it up in the last few weeks. It was originally 4 per week, and now it's 6. And
well, it's yeah, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 10 and 6.
Mhm.
The 10 is booked until the end of the year. The
Wow.
6, I'm kinda slowing down on.
Yeah, no, I imagine that that's very difficult to keep up, especially, when you were running a business, which is essentially 2 businesses in one.
Yes, it is. It's a lot of work. And
Yeah.
sometimes you hit the machines in the back, and guys are like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Man, I can't stop working. This doesn't pay. This is what I like."
Yeah, no, that's real, I think. Um, that's very real. And I think people appreciate that too. To know that work is always happening. And even
It
if it's
has to.
background. Yeah. Yeah. Um, one of the great things about your discussions is that you always address equity in the field and in some way, and you usually make it kind of light and harmless, even though I think those of us who work in this field must recognize that there is a problem with diversity and access. Um,
And that was that was kind of the point, um, to just make the other person think about it. That's all. Not accuse them, not get into anything deep. Just a thought. And once they have that thought, they'll leave and they'll actually think about it. But I didn't want to be confrontational. I didn't want to be put in any more than they already are.
it's wonderful to see the way people respond to your question, do you have any Black friends? And then I've heard in several occasions that then you go on to really clarify what it means to be a friend, and how, and then it opens up another conversation about what are relationships and what do they mean to you, and how do you define the people in your life, and the ways that they play a part in your life. And I think it causes people to think about communities as well, and the ways they interact with people in the larger world, and what their communities look like, and how those measure up to the larger, wider environment. So I think it's quite smart, what you do there, because it causes people to consider many things that I think in our busy world we don't think about those things. It's too easy to put your head
Exactly.
and just get through it.
Yes. And I think what you just said is the problem. Like, when I first launched the conversations, it was me and a group of white guys. There was one girl. There were it was, let's say it was 30 people. One was an intentional female, um, insect design. She's awesome. She said no. The second was Sawkill Lumber, which is partly female owned. She said no. The third was a surprise. Far West Forestry is a family-owned business, and the daughter runs it. So she's the face of it.
Mm.
So I didn't know that at the time. I only knew of there being one female owned in there. And I'm like, wait a second. I can't interview
Why is that?
because it's the boys club. It's what this country is pushing against at the moment. And these guys these are my boys. We're cool. These are my peers. But it had to to be more than that to make it sustainable.
Yes.
So, but let me tell you this though. I have been turned down more, first by Black people for the conversations, and second by women.
Why do you think that is? I mean, you can only speculate, I suppose. But
I don't. You know, sometimes I take it personal. Like, what the hell am I doing? Why can't I get through? But it got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I make it available. If they're interested, fine. If they don't, fine.
right.
But you know, I always keep record of who I invited. So if anything ever comes up, I can be like, listen, I invited this person, that person, this person. They never responded. So I probably have asked 600 people, and I got close to 200 conversations.
And
So most of those have said no. And you know, the white men have always showed up for me. They see the value in it. I mean, women do as well, but initially it was the guys.
I don't know, but I appreciate your efforts to create a broad community there. And I think that, you know, one of the things that we always talk about the Center for Art and Wood is the importance of documentation. And I mean, there are two parts. There are two kinds of values with Conversations with Black Lumberjack. First is that you're having this event, which is a very, very honest conversation between two people who feel very passionate about their respective fields. And then you're also preserving that conversation and allowing it to live on in a group of conversations with inspired, passionate people. So I'm really thrilled that you've generously put yourself out there and dedicated time to doing this. And I think there's so much value in that. And I can't wait to see who comes next. I did want to kind of go back to your commitment to environmental sustainability and the lumber and wood industry. And I guess you kind of explained where your concern and commitment to that came from. But I guess, considering that I believe tonight is the first debate, I'd love to know your projection. I shouldn't have said that, but I'd love to know what your projections are for our future on this planet and how we can better steward these resources. And when I ask these kinds of questions to people who work in wood, I always get the best answers, because these are people whose entire lives circulate around the conservation and the preservation of this living resource.
Right. I think simultaneously there's a movement toward more salvaging local lumber, where people are doing it for selfish reasons, but they're also helping the environment. Like, every guy who has a neighbor whose tree's fallen, he wants to slab it and make money off of it. It's a lot more complex than that, but that's what the guy's doing. But in part, these guys are saving the trees.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to be more concerned about taking care of our local communities and our local land to make it better and more sustainable for the future. Because no one's really concerned. There are not enough people that are concerned about eating local, buying local, shopping local. You know, there's this big campaign about America first, but products are being made in China. So that's not genuine. Um, we need real, genuine efforts to make sure that we take care of our resources and do what we can to bring production in some way or form back to this country, whatever that means. And I think that what we probably need to do first is stop being so damn driven by money. This country is very, very driven by money. And I think everything else takes a backseat.
I can't disagree with you. I had a conversation a long time ago when I first started as a curator in this country, and he's a glass artist from Australia. We had this long conversation about craft and what are the societal benefits for being a maker, as well as being a part of a maker community. And he attributed a lot of societal issues to people not understanding how to connect this with these, and having sort of more evolutionary or primordial frustration in not occupying themselves with handwork.
Right. No, I completely agree. You know, in addition to that, the trades are taken out of schools.
Yeah.
So it's even less people are actually doing and building stuff. And I don't know what's going to happen in 20 years. Yeah, things are going to really get bad because, I mean, there's an independent movement of manufacturing in this country, but it's not on a large scale where it can impact the country soon.
Right. Right. How do we change that?
I mean, that's a pretty heavy question. People like me are part of the solution and part of the problem, because you have all of these smaller sawmills popping up all over the country, which in some way are affecting the bigger mills. You have all of these smaller furniture companies popping up, which is some way affecting the bigger furniture production companies. So there needs to be a balance in some way where we are not but the mom and pop versus the big spot, the big box. There needs to be some way where they could mutually grow and exist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always one or the other.
And it's not a marketing effort, but it's a true support.
Yes, exactly.
Community systems.
Yep.
Well, I hope we see that day soon.
Yes, we need to.
We see a movement towards that, and I think
Yes.
the last decade, it certainly seems to be the direction. At least there seems to be more awareness. I don't know how far deep into the society that awareness actually exists, but and I know that I'm speaking from the point of view of somebody in the museum world, so I recognize that it's a silo. But I would hope that, you know, it's usually a movement, and then the marketing efforts catch on, right?
Right.
So I hope that that's a positive movement.
I'm with you.
Well, I do want to open it up to questions from our small group here. And we do have one from Derek in Hawaii. Derek asks, have you ever cut down any historic trees? And that's a good question, because I did actually, there was something you mentioned, the colleague that you worked with who was wanted to source wood from a building in New York, and And there is a organization, or there used to be an organization called Historic Woods, which was very, which was basically a husband and wife who sourced, or they went out and gathered felled woods on colonial properties, and then made them available to artists. So, have you personally ever come into contact with historic woods?
Yeah. I'm trying to think off of my head. We've taken trees out of we've gotten trees out of Central Park. We've had trees from parks. We've had trees from municipalities. Um, um, I'm, it escapes me the one single tree, because I mean there's so much that we do.
Yeah.
We've there are buildings that came down. We have, for example, we salvaged the wood from the Black building on Broadway, and Black was a pool table company in Manhattan, Black Billiards. They sold the building, I think went to Jersey. Um, uh, and someone purchased the building and renovated it, made it bigger, and we got the wood out of it. So there are many instances like that. I guess the question will be how historic do you want to get? But we try to preserve it all, and we think whether it's from one of the trees that would be in Washington Square Park, to a tree that would be on the West Side Highway, that they're equally as important. So you can't save them all, but you have to make an effort to try to save as many as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the mission of your company, right?
Yep.
How was your experience at Brooklyn Flea? I didn't know that you had an appearance.
Yeah, I did the Brooklyn Flea for like 4 or 5 years.
Oh.
That was pretty good. It was when I decided to make the turn into the furniture and not just the milling. The Brooklyn Flea was pretty good. It was a lot of work. We would have to set up, unload, set up, load, and do it twice a day. And on Saturday was one place, Saturday was another. So there was a lot of loading and unloading. But it helped the brand. It helped us helped us grow, and we met a lot of other cool people from there. But that was a serious hustle.
Yeah.
It was a serious hustle.
How often you did it for? I mean, that's a monthly?
I did it for, no, it's every weekend. It's 7 days a week for 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Rigorous.
Yeah.
Wow. So the next question is, how much time do you spend on machine restoration?
Not enough. Because I'm always getting another machine. So
Yeah.
I don't have as much time on it, spend as much time on it as I should. But in the new space where I got more room, I'm going to start doing it more.
Well, being that you work with antiques, I can't imagine that they're all antique machines, but
they are.
They are. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's another maintenance discussion in its own right.
Well, let me tell you the reason for that. I think all of my machines are American, but my Martin sliding table saw. And I got about 30, 40 machines. And the reason for that is my patriotism, is me loving this country and our manufacturing and wanting to outfit my shop with American-made machines. So that's why they're all antiques.
Yeah. I just have one more question for you.
Yep.
Actually, two. Sorry, I lied. What are you currently collecting?
um, I need to stop collecting because I collect way too much. Um,
Nope, nope.
uh,
If you're born a collector, you're always a collector.
yeah, I collect way too much. Um, but the last thing I was collecting was machines. I had a pretty decent. I have about 5 lathes,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got those from all over the country. Um, yeah, nothing. I collect bicycles, fans, refrigerators, art, books. Yeah, so I don't need any new any new things to collect.
And finally, what are your immediate hopes for, you name it, society, the planet, woodworking?
My immediate hopes for me first is that I get my yard moved and reduce my overhead so
Mm,
I can sleep at night.
good one.
For the universe is that people become more educated about politics, the process.
Mm,
Um, Maybe everyone needs to take a civics class again.
mm,
Um, and people vote based on their circumstances, not on race, not on a party, and not blindly. Just hope that people become educated and vote based on their common interest. I think that we as a country are more pointing the finger than we're actually trying to follow what helps us as people.
yeah, I can't argue with that. Spoken like a White House refugee.
Yes, yes. Refugee would be it.
So I do have one more question from Alan, and that is, do you have a formal business plan to guide your growth?
Alan asked me about that a lot. Now, and to answer that, no, I don't have a formal plan. But
That's
everything that I want to do is is in my head. Some of it I've written down, some of it I haven't. But do I have a plan to hand him to put in his hand? I don't.
hmm. But do you have goals that guide you or pull you along?
Absolutely. Yeah, constantly. I've followed um, my goals and where I want to go. I mean, everything that I from the start, there's a list of stuff that I wrote down that I want to do, and I followed that. Um, some of it happened sooner than other, a little later than other, but everything I've not everything. There's one thing that I have not been able to do that I've wanted to do that I can do now in the new space, and that is convert shipping containers into tiny homes. I'm
Ooh.
about I'm about 5 years off on that, but I can never get ahead uh, in the business thing to to remove myself enough to do it. And as Alan would say, I've been too busy working in the business and not on the business.
Hmm. I think that's a really important phrase to think about in all. I think we can all apply that to our lives. I've never heard that before, but I'm going to take that, put it in my pocket.
Yeah, Alan tells me that all the time.
And then next time Alan comes and visits, I'm going to ask him for more wisdom.
He has lots.
I
He has
know.
lots.
I know. Well, Robert, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and right after a really hefty unload. And it's been so much fun to speak to you on both sides, on
Thank
your
you.
platform and on ours. So we really appreciate your sharing your candid thoughts with us and unveiling your life and experiences with us here.
I
Um,
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation and the time.
No, it's our pleasure. It's probably a weird experience for you.
A little bit. You're a little more formal than I.
Yeah. Yeah, until the internet connection goes badly and then we just throw it out the window.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you for joining us and sticking through it. It's so nice to see you all. And check into Conversations with Black Lumberjack on Instagram, and also Robert's other account, NYCITYSLAB. Both are really great sources of imagery and information to follow. And I know you're gonna enjoy his conversation series as well. So thank you all
Thank you.
for coming. It's good to see you, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Thanks, Rob.